So, hello and welcome to everyone joining today. Thank you so much to FIT for having myself and Michael from Ralph Lauren join the Sustainability Conference this year. We're excited to share a bit of a conversation around sustainability at Ralph Lauren and how we are really focused on bringing our history and heritage around timelessness into our future strategies through design, through product, and through the brand that we all know and love as Ralph Lauren. So with that, I'll just do a quick introduction. My name is Devon Leahy. I am VP of Sustainability at Ralph Lauren. I head up all of our environmental sustainability strategies globally and partner across all different parts of our business, including design and product development, to really try to create a culture that embraces sustainability, circularity, and timelessness across everything that we do. And have been working in the corporate sustainability space for over a decade, with a fair amount of background in retail, apparel, and technology. And it's been a real sort of wonderful opportunity at Ralph Lauren to be able to bring a lot of those things together in such a sort of powerful way for our brand. And with that, I'll hand over to Michael to do a bit of an intro as well.
Thanks, Devon. My name is Michael Ryder, and I am the creative director here of Women's Polo. I've been at Ralph Lauren for a little over 3 years, and just echo Devon, it's a wonderful place to be, especially when we're talking about issues that are concerning us today of sustainability and circularity, and kind of how design led companies can lead in this space. So happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
And I think one of the things we're really excited about, and Michael and I have been fortunate enough to be at a company where people in our roles get to work together, that we have really different sort of angles that we're coming at the sustainability work and the kind of focus on timelessness and how we really imbue that into the brand every day. We continue to bring that into the brand every day. My background is a bit more on the technical and science side, but also studied art. And I think we really are, again, fortunate to be able to bring together that like art of design, the sort of science and technical side of sustainability into our strategies and into the work that we do. So we're lucky, I think, in that regard. Just to kind of open us up. I mean, we have for over 50 years at Ralph Lauren been guided by our founder and his vision, the importance and the focus on authenticity, timeless style, and that has really been at the heart of everything we've done, even before we embarked on our more formal sustainability journey. And one of the things that we are, working to kind of continue today is ensuring that we bring that forward into the future of the brand for the next 50 years. So what does timelessness look like as we, fast forward? And some of the conversations that, we've had are how do we think, what are some of the new definitions or the kind of ways that we unpack timelessness in today's context? And Michael, we've talked a lot about this, but if you want to share some of your thoughts on, from a design perspective, what does it sort of look like, feel like, and mean today?
Sure.
As we talk about timelessness.
Sure. I mean, it's such a big word, and it means so much. And obviously, as Devon, you said, it's been at the heart of everything that Ralph has always believed in, and that kind of has always guided design decisions, but really every decision at the company about how we show up and what we look like and what we feel like to people, and the messages that we send through the clothes that we make. And I think at the heart of it is this idea that things that last, and things that pass down, and things that are always right because they're full of integrity and because they're authentic. And so they're timeless because of the spirit with which they're created, that they're meant to withstand. They're almost the opposite of what's hot this season or what's new right now. And in a month, you might feel silly about it, or you look back at those photos and think, what was I thinking? And so from the inception of the brand, and especially now as the design team kind of gets together at the beginning of every season, we think about those kind of holy grail messages and pieces that people will return to every year, every season, that their kids will want, that their mothers will want, that their fathers will want, and that as they're made can stand the test of time. So not just the idea and the kind of aesthetic, but the way that a garment or a chair is made. It's built to last, and it's built to stand up to a world where we hope to encourage that you buy less and you buy better and you keep. And I think that's one of the beautiful things. We work a lot with vintage clothing, a lot of our own. And it's such a thrill to be able to mix clothes from 1967 when we're thinking about new ideas with clothes from 1975, with clothes from 1989, and with clothes we're designing for 2 years from now. There is that spirit in the way we work.
And I think what you just touched on, last month we set some explicit goals around circularity, and I think big buzzword in sustainability and in the fashion industry. But I think that it's, for us particularly sort of resonant, because keeping the clothes that we were designed and made even 50 years ago in circulation and handed down is a key part of the strategy, and something we don't want to sort of lose as we move forward. And I think that's in some ways, you're saying, like almost the antithesis of a lot of what is focused on in fashion and newness, and that's something that we work to balance, right, at Ralph Lauren, is that that kind of things we want to hang on to that remain relevant, right, remain desirable, have that intergenerational desirability,
and that they get better with age, which I also love. I see a lot of brands out there attempting to message that, and I think to myself, I've shopped those clothes, or I've touched them and I know them. Those clothes are not getting better with age. And I know my collection of Ralph Lauren, even before I joined the company, is full of things my father and my mother gave me, and they're going to be as cool the older they get for younger kids. And I think that is always, when we're making things, at the forefront, kind of how will this age?
Yeah. The other thing that we've talked about is there's this idea of how we ensure what we're making is compatible with other systems, like with nature. If, say, it does come to the end of its useful life, how does it sort of go back to nature, or go back into a recycling stream? And those are, just to note that those are, that's also part of the strategy, and that's also part of how we think about circularity and timelessness. Like, it's both in ensuring the things that we make that are made to last, and that those that may come to the end of their useful life also have that sort of next life imagined or planned for them. And maybe just to take us even into the sort of approach to concepting, and how timelessness, again, this abstract concept, we're starting to talk about how we define it, but how we take timelessness into concepting, and like how it starts to show up, or examples of that.
Sure. I think often I mean, every designer is different, but often at Ralph Lauren and Polo, we start with fabric or we start with material, let's say. So, you know, the concept or the story, the narrative is built around a raw material, let's say. And so instead of, let's say, building the movie, as we say, purely around a new silhouette or a new way of wearing something or a new kind of garment idea, having the first conversations around the materials we're using and what those materials mean, and where they come from, and to your point, where they're going, is unique. I would say I've worked in fashion for a little while, and I never had that in my past lives. And I think it is really where Ralph has always been, because when we talk about how it started and how it evolved, material was always the starting place, and that those materials had integrity is some of the way that he might say it. And now we talk specifically about what that integrity is in the concept. Okay, well, the whole point is that this tweed or this cashmere or this skin comes from this place, is treated in this way. And then the idea for the bag is built around that.
Yeah.
Well, this bag needs to message that through the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it smells. I mean, the way these materials live with us and the way we live with them is a unique way that we concept at Polo. And I think it is true to the way it has always, from talking to Ralph and Buffy, for how it always built.
Yeah.
So.
And the things we, continue to ensure through our sustainability strategy, our, strategies, and kind of as the business evolves, we want to remain true to, right. And ensure like really embedded in our culture and our, design approach. And on that note, I mentioned we sort of more formally have embarked on our sustainability work in the last few years, and I've just been at the company for the last few years. But, as we try to build this really authentic and integrated intersection between design and sustainability, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the ways that we're working together, like our teams, and also, kind of across the brands to ensure that our, design teams and all those that they partner with kind of have the right tools or education or information, or partners to bring them together, design and sustainability.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't know if there are some of the ways that our teams are working together that you want to share. Or,
sure. Yeah. I mean, and you, I mean, our teams, I've never felt more connectivity between your team, a team doing the work that you're doing, and a design team. So I think it's been very exciting also to have the team that works with you on sustainability and on those initiatives kind of embedded in the design process. I think a lot of brands are trying now to backtrack or kind of wedge into a way to get to a good place with no, I'm not judging that. And what I found quite inspiring with what we're up to these days is that it's starting at the initial phases. So sustainability as an idea, we're trying not to see it as adjacent to, like, let's have great fashion ideas and then try and make them sustainable or fit them into this. But actually, let's think more like Ralph and start with timelessness as your end. And as the movie is about this quality and quality of life. Mm-hmm. And let's build that throughout the process from the get-go. And I think what's been exciting with you and with Megan is ideas like riffing off of each other in a way. So it isn't imposing, well, this is our collection, help us make it sustainable, or this is what we have to do in terms of the world and the planet, but rather to build it, I think, weave it together, has been wonderful. And it's funny, it's changed, which is not a surprise. It's changed the way that designers think.
Right.
It's changed the way that they start and that they develop. It's changed the choices, the types of choices that they make. And I don't think it's felt confining, quite the opposite. I think in a way, it's freed up a different way to look at making clothes. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's something that, as you say, is not maybe typical yet, but I would say, to many like listening, this is, really working to break out of our kind of teams or silos or functions is so key to what needs to start to change in our in the fashion industry. And I think even starting, I remember when we first started talking about this, we were like, let's just start in small ways. Like we're not gonna
yeah,
every every process or kind of flip a switch and say like now it's integrated and now our teams are more aligned and connected, but let's like find these ways to start and these
yes,
projects and programs to work on. And it's been really, and sort of demonstrate that this is a new way of working that, as you say, doesn't threaten creativity or stifle creativity, but really can help to open the aperture a bit more.
yeah. I think something I heard this morning. I'm going to butcher the quote, but about not letting the perfect get in the way of the good.
Yeah.
It really resonated with, especially this work, which has to be incremental, and it can't all happen at once. But we should never, as designers and as creatives and as people who are observing the world around us and reacting to it and hopefully imbuing it with more joy and more beauty, we can't wait for everything to sort itself out to get started. And I think that's what's been, I think of denim, as a specific example, a place where 3 years ago, even when I arrived, our approach to dyeing, water usage, stonewashing, and imagining the design teams that this was the way and the only way to do things, and to be exposed to such new ways of which actually don't confine but show completely different approaches that have aesthetic value and have integrity. I think of the new denim project. I think of all these examples of things that have opened up, to your point, an aperture on the lens is so much wider now on what's possible and regenerative and not just adding more.
Yeah, exactly. And denim, I'm glad you raised that because I think, and we haven't maybe been quite as vocal on this, but the teams have worked over the last 3 years, to eliminate stonewashing and use of some of the more harmful chemicals that are used in kind of fading and achieving some of that aesthetic. And I think it's a really good example and a really good like testament to how how sustainability doesn't have to be a constraint, and that we can achieve what our design visions in a more sustainable way. And one of the other things I'll just note that we've worked on, aside from kind of merging our teams in many ways, so to speak, but as a company, is around developing education and kind of resources for design and teams that touch the product, but that it's not sort of dictated by the sustainability subject matter experts that we sort of support that, but that really we've had curriculum and materials that have been created really by groups of designers and product
Yes.
development teams.
Yes.
So that it's yeah. So I mean, it's not something that's sort of predetermined or dictated by a kind of technical team, but really, what are the principles and concepts that design like yearns for and wants to kind of have brought into their day to day. And I think that's been an important part of the approach as well.
Really.
That's great. And I think, as we look at the fashion industry, the apparel industry, and sort of, we've talked a lot about where we want to go and about, the way we're kind of bringing timelessness into our or continuing to hold it and it be really a driver of our sustainability strategy as we go into the future. But there's also, I think, acknowledging the existing systems and the sort of what we in many ways have inherited after decades of kind of, as you say, like the ways of working, or like this was the default. It was that we achieved this wash this way, or we achieved this aesthetic this way. Maybe we can get your thoughts a bit on how how the sort of history of the industry and where we need to go. Like what are some of the things we really need to change? And yeah.
Well, a lot. Some of the things that we need to change. I mean, I think minds would be, or I would say speed is one. And I think especially in the nascent stages of this being at the forefront of people's minds in our industry, there is this feeling that taking time to do things, that we don't have it. In at least, from design's perspective, you're always late. you're always behind on something or on a season. You're working years out trying to imagine what's coming. And I think this idea that slowing down is somehow a loss of value is a big paradigm shift that the industry as a whole, I think, is coming to terms with. And I think it's not just at Ralph Lauren, but I think this idea of taking the time and considering what you're doing and working and designing with intent and with intention is paramount to any progress on sustainability. I know that Ralph has always believed in that and in the considered approach. And I think as an industry, that would be a huge game changer. This idea that racing is the appropriate way to dress people, fill the market, send messages. Because I think increasingly we're aware that, and I think this is a shift that's happened over time, fashion and fashion designers in the apparel industry isn't only dressing people, but it's kind of dressing people's minds. It's like sending messages. It's filling people's lives with ideas and associations. And I think Ralph, again, was ahead of his time in understanding that he was talking about a story and a narrative and a life that someone lived through his clothes. And just that, which I do think other brands are coming around to or trying to catch up to. But at Ralph Lauren, it's something that we've always believed in, and that I think we double down on in this with the new commitments we're making. That we aren't in the race, or the race is a long race. It will outlive all of us. It's long. It's an ultra marathon, and it will outlive all of us. Just like we hope the right products can, and if they can't, that they do no harm. Those are industry changing ideas, I believe, in the approach. Where I worked in the past, you were chasing the newest, hottest, and you weren't really rounding out people's lives in that way. It's a different project, but I think the whole industry now is shifting, and I think that's exciting. I'm very excited to be at a place that I feel was at the forefront of that, almost without, like, in an authentic way.
Yeah, without having to, like,
before it was on everyone's lips.
Yeah.
Before there was a sustainability conference,
right,
to be attended, and I think that's it's a lovely position to be in.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're lucky, as I said at the top, to be at a brand that just has this history, this heritage, that we can authentically honor in, the work we do in the present and the impact we want to have in the future. And
And
I think, yeah.
no, sorry, Dana. But I would just add to that, and in addition, a brand that, this idea of inclusivity, which I think is a piece that's very important of this, which again is in a way anti-fashion, because we think of exclusivity, we think of a target audience, and I think the scope and the breadth of people that wear Ralph Lauren, that love Ralph Lauren, that where Ralph Lauren is a part of their daily lives, whether it's in their homes or on their bodies or on their mood boards. It's that also is powerful, because it's not a strain to include. Right. It's actually from the beginning what the point was, and I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Exactly, and I think that's maybe a good place to pause us. But I think we're this. I guess just to say that we're going to continue to be on this sort of path and journey around I'd say like this commitment to authentically integrating and embracing and pushing ourselves on sustainability, of which we include inclusivity, equity in that work, and that our sort of guiding principles in timelessness and the sort of new goals that we've set to hold ourselves to a higher standard as we live up, continue to live up to that, essentially. Mm-hmm. I think it's not something that we sort of take for granted, that because it was a founding kind of principle that we have to take care of it. We have to really interrogate that we're living up to it. And that really is what I think for both of us, like in our respective roles, like when we're setting new goals or we're designing a new season, like that's what we keep coming back to, is that we have to protect it, cultivate it, and ensure that we're being self-critical in many ways of how well are we delivering on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything you want to say before we close?
Not really. I mean, you say it so well. Not really. I I would just reiterate, it's a privilege. We have to acknowledge how incredible it is that this forum exists and feels so urgent in the place that we go to work every day, and just that I think it is changing the way that people design, and the way that people think about design, and the way that people that we're making things, and I onwards and upwards.
Exactly, onwards and upwards. Well, with that, I'll just say thank you again to FIT, to all of you for sharing your time with us, and hope this was a little bit of insight into some of the strategic and design and sustainability conversations and sort of issues that we're grappling with and working at Ralph Lauren. So thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.